Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen of the Senate. It is with a heavy heart that I stand before you today, and here's why. 34 in 2021, 31 in 2022, and from what we know, 23 so far is 23 for 2023. 88 kids have died in the past 3 years, more than the previous 6 years combined. If that's not a crisis, I don't know what is. Unfortunately, Mr. President, the numbers don't lie. As I stand before you today, it is a fact that the failure of Maine's child welfare system, let's name it, the Office of Child and Family Services, are as plain as day. The failures go back as far as the King administration, with the brutal death of Logan Marr, who was killed in Chelsea by his foster parent herself, a former caseworker, when it was just DHHS back then. The department went into disarray, and Governor Baldacci recognized it in 2002 to become DHHS as we know it today. And as my seatmate said, the Governor Baldacci had to do that at that point in time. But the department, it grew too fast and too large, and the problems led to deaths of Kendall Chick in West Cassett in 2017, Marissa Kennedy in Stockton Springs in 2018, both under the LePage administration. Mr. President, after a previous investigation by the Government Oversight Committee, the same bill before you today was introduced then by Senator Bill Diamond in 2021. The bill before you today passed the chamber 22-12. Fast forward 5 years since those deaths, 5 bad years, and here we are again. And regrettably, Mr. President, the numbers don't lie. When the Government Oversight Committee began our investigation looking into the deaths of 4 of those 34 children in 2021, it was under a different legislature with different members on the GOC. Those children were 6-week-old Jaden Harding of Brewer, whose father, Ronald Harding, was convicted for his 2021 death. 3-year-old Maddox Williams of Stockton Springs, whose mother was convicted for his June 2021 murder. 3-year-old Haley Gordon of Old Town, whose mother was convicted for her June 2021 death. 1-year-old Cyrus Melvin of Milo, whose father was convicted for the infant's August 21 murder. All those kids died of a very brutal, horrible death. Sadly, Mr. President, there are many more names on this list, too many in fact. Mr. President, the numbers don't lie. So was I proud when I and my colleagues in this room, Senator Bennett, Senator Kime, Senator Hickman, Senator Duson, Senator Tipping, took up the mantle and continued the journey? We hope to quickly find a problem and easy answers. What we did uncover were real systemic problems with the Office of Child and Family Services. It began with leadership. Well, at least with one leader who was no longer there. The problem showed through the testimony in the Office of Child and Family Service employees themselves, often by statements like, they work within a broken system. They are being reviewed to death. The Lewiston District caseworker calling her office a war zone. And the Office of Child and Family Services a sinking ship. The Lewiston District caseworker, The supervisors who never show up for work. And still, Mr. President, the numbers don't lie. Our very own director of OPEGA found, and I quote, errors on top of errors, unquote. As this office reviewed their work, unsound safety decisions, he said. Even the Office of Child and Family Services itself, through its federally mandated annual service and progress report, said it was failing, and as an agency, want more evidence than there are more facts. The reoccurring rate of child abuse in Maine is twice, I repeat, twice the national average. And in a pamphlet you was handed out this morning on your desk, there is a report that shows that we are the highest in the nation. OCFS said it was failing half of the time in identifying children's risks. And when it comes to reunification, a review of 200 randomly selected cases showed the Office of Child and Family Services failed to meet at least one federal standard in all of them. All of them, while most failed to meet more than one. Sadly, Mr. President, the numbers still don't lie. And for a third year in a row, the Child Welfare Ombudsman has found substantial issues in more than half the cases she reviewed. 60% this year, in fact. It's getting worse. We are one of the worst in the nation when it comes to child welfare. In fact, in the packet before you are the worst numbers in the nation when it comes to child abuse. When it comes to the Office of Child and Family Services, we're not talking about a blip on the radar here. We're talking about a brief hiccup or a one-off. This is much worse. These are deeply rooted, grotesque failures that affected children who were already dealt an extreme, unfair hand in life to begin with. In the case of Jaden Harding, his hands were dealt even before he took his first breath of life. Mr. President, the numbers don't lie. In fact, they speak the truth, and that we have failed Maine's people. We have let the problem continue to grow. We have let it get worse. It is up to us to fix it. Everything I've said here today leads me to one conclusion. It should lead all of us to one conclusion. Something drastic has to change. Before you is a vehicle in the packet that was handed out. Laid before you is a roadmap to do it. Nothing else has worked. Nothing else we've tried has changed the course of the Office of Child and Family Services. Look, I'm just a farmer. But in my farming world, sometimes you have to tear down the old barn before you build the new one. That's where we are here today. The Department of Health and Human Services is too large, too unaccountable, and the Office of Child and Family Services needs to be separated from it. There is a reason why Indiana, New Jersey, Tennessee, Georgia, Wisconsin, and Washington State just 2 years ago created separate child welfare agencies. There's a reason 18 states, including Connecticut and Rhode Island, have agencies dedicated solely to the children and the families. Mr. President and my colleagues of the Senate, the numbers simply don't lie. Just like we did in 2021, I urge you to pass this bill. And Mr. President, I only wish that the senator from Penobscot, Senator Baldacci, helped me write these words, because he says his much more eloquently than I do most of the time. But Mr. President, I'm passionate about this, and I ask you to please support the minority report. Thank you.